remembers Daniel and his search to find at least 3 silly people sillier than Lena, the woman he wanted to marry. Last week, we heard the story of a silly woman who wanted to get her cow on a roof. This week, we've got another story about Daniel's adventures. One night, somewhere along his journey, Daniel was trying to find a place to stop for the night, but all of the places travelers might stay were full. At one establishment, the innkeeper said, "I have only one occupied bed, and for it, you must share your room with that man over there." And he pointed out the man. "Fabulous," said Daniel, extracting the money from his wallet to pay the innkeeper. Soon, Daniel approached the man who would be his roommate, and a very pleasant fellow he was. The 2 gentlemen conversed for a long time. Daniel felt a real kinship with the man and hoped they would be friends for a long time. That evening, when they were getting ready to go out for dinner, Daniel saw the man staring in the mirror. Furthermore, the man's hands were by his head as if he was holding something, and he seemed to be pulling something down. Daniel waited and watched, and the man continued in this way for a long time. When the man saw Daniel watching him, the man asked, "Do you not like my fine hat?" Frowning, Daniel answered, "But you are not wearing a hat." "Ha!" laughed the man. "My fine hat has fooled you too. For once I thought the same as you. My very own sister knit this hat for me, and when I said that I could not see the hat, she assured me it was there. Furthermore, she told me that the wool was so fine that it takes better eyes than mine to see it. Then she told me to take the hat. I reached out with my hand to touch it, and never have I felt such fine cloth, and I knew it was a very fine hat indeed. Now, come, touch my hat and see if you don't think the same thing." Daniel did go over and touch the place where the hat was supposed to be. He moved his hand about in order to make a full assessment, but he did not feel the fine wool. On the converse, he didn't feel anything at all. He thought wearing an invisible hat was at least a little bit silly. "Why do you wear a hat you can't see?" he asked his friend. "Well, I wear it for the sake of my dear sister, who loves to see me wearing the hat she made for me." "Well," thought Daniel, "that is an excellent reason, so perhaps it's not too silly to wear a fine invisible hat after all. The man obviously cares for his sister, which is a very good attribute indeed." That evening, as the 2 were getting ready for bed, Daniel noticed that the man placed bricks under the head of his bed so that his bed was raised up at an angle. "Don't be surprised if I should fall out of my bed tonight," said the man. "It happens almost every night." "I won't be surprised," responded Daniel. "In fact, I anticipate that you will tumble out of your bed with it tilted up at such an angle. It seems inevitable to me. Tell me, why do you sleep like that?" "Why, it is necessary to keep the food in one's belly. I thought everybody did it." "Surely you do the same thing," cried the man. Daniel spoke up. "It's quite the converse. I do no such thing. And furthermore, I have never heard of such a practice, nor do I think it is necessary at all. Your food will stay in your belly even if you sleep with your bed flat on the floor." Nevertheless, the man crawled into his tilted bed and went to sleep. "My," thought Daniel, "perhaps this man is really very silly after all. But who else but a silly person would sleep with his head raised up like that?" In the morning, the 2 men began getting ready for the day. Once again, Daniel's attention was drawn to the other man. Just as before, the man was doing something unusual. He had strung his trousers, his pants, up between 2 dressers, with the belt of one loop fastened to the knob of one dresser, and the opposite belt loop wrapped around the knob of the other dresser. He climbed into a nearby chair and attempted to jump into his trousers. Unsuccessfully, I might add. Can you guess what happened next? Well, the chair toppled over, and the man fell with a grunt into a heap on the floor. The only thing unchanged was his trousers. They remained suspended between the knobs of the dressers. The man slowly got back to his feet. He extracted a handkerchief from his shirt pocket and wiped his face. Once he recovered, he climbed back on the chair. Daniel could tell by the look on his face that he was going to try and jump again. "Cease!" Daniel shouted with his arms raised. He wasn't sure he wanted to know what the man was doing, so he went on reluctantly. "Before you proceed, tell me, what are you doing?" "Well, I am putting on my trousers, of course," replied the man. "Aren't they the most difficult clothing to put on? I have tried so many things to assist me getting into them. I have used a rigid tube, and I have even tried putting them at the end of my bed and sliding into them. But there is no benefit in anything I've tried. I still have so much trouble putting on my trousers. I can't think of who would make clothes like these. It takes me the best part of an hour to get into mine every morning, and I get so hot. How do you manage yours?" Daniel was getting a headache listening from this man. He was going to need to take a medicinal extract. From the invisible hat, the tilted bed, and now the trousers, Daniel deduced that his roommate was absolutely, totally silly, and certainly sillier than Lena. Daniel knew it was time to go on his way, but before he left, Daniel showed the man how to put on trousers. Consequently, the man put on his trousers one leg at a time from then on, just like everybody else. But I suspect he still slept on his tilted bed and wore his non-existent hat. Oh well, I guess everybody is silly sometimes.